Welcome back to Dyl Friends, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us, and what a very, very exciting episode we have today. But before we get into it, full credit to the team at Dove Men+Care for showing care as sponsors of this podcast. This genuinely would not be possible without Dove Men+Care, and we genuinely have a lot in common and a lot of shared values, and that's why we've come up with this series to give back to our friends, give full credit to the boys, and catch up with some really, really cool guests that I know that the audience has really enjoyed over the time. So to welcome me today, before we get into an awesome chat with Jeremy Cameron, Jezza Cameron, Big Deepak.
Deepak.
How are you, buddy?
Good, mate.
Good to have you back.
Good to be back.
What did you think of Matty DeBoer last week?
Yeah, pretty impressive operator.
Not too boring.
Not too boring.
Not at all.
No,
it was
at all.
ripping it. It was really good to catch up with him, and he loved the concept as well. And guess who we have here today chatting with us?
He's got a presence, doesn't he?
He does.
Give us a meow.
I'm not meowing.
Scotty, welcome back. It's been a long time between drinks since you've been on the Dyl Friends network.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. It's nice to be invited. I'm always sitting out the back, just kind of peering, will it be my turn? But no, it's good to be back.
Hey, today, talking about catching up with old mates, Jeremy Cameron. I know I love Jeremy Cameron. I know you're a big admirer of Jeremy Cameron.
Love him.
Cameron. And Scotty, I know you love Jeremy Cameron.
I love Jeremy.
Now,
For how long, though?
yeah.
Oh, since he joined the Cats.
Can you please tell us about at home, at your family home in Geelong?
Yeah.
This is
A
so
few
good.
things. Well, yeah, okay.
What are your light switches called?
Okay, so so for those that don't know, my parents moved out to Port Arlington, which is great. It's 30 minutes away from the Cattery.
Yeah.
Mad Cats fans.
Yeah, and were they not allowed to get any closer? Were they like in a range?
Yeah,
was it like
they tried to get into Geelong.
Yeah.
No, little known fact, Dad took Mum on a first day to Geelong training, which was obviously very sweet of him. I would have loved that if my partner did that. But so I've walked into the front door for the first time for a long time. Dad said, here's the bedroom. One change, we're doing voice-operated lights now. So you've got the left bedside light and the right bedside light. You got to tell Alexa, hey, turn on the light. And so Dad walks in and he goes, Alexa, Jezza on. So he's named the lights after Jezza and Max Holmes. So no, we're a Cats family. And we don't shy away from it.
I love that.
It's great.
But it just makes no sense.
Doesn't.
Like, there's other things you could do to show
other-
an ode to your favourite players than name a light after them.
Are there any other household items that are named after Cats players?
Not named after. We've got a few bobbleheads lying around.
No, good.
We got Tommy Stewart, and somebody actually broke Jeremy Cameron's head. And so he's just sitting in the front garden at the moment.
Oh, boy. So
That's
you'd be looking forward to hearing from Jezza today.
Yes. Excited and nervous.
No, it's going to be awesome to catch up with him. Appreciate you taking us into the four walls of the Waltons, and
Walton House.
we'll have to get up there shortly and catch up with them, speaking of old friends. But, hey, before we get into the Jezza chat, which we've got a lot to talk about, we'll sort of catch up a little bit here too. Obviously, we've got the hotline that is open at the moment, Dars.
Yes, it's open. There's already been a few entries, and so
Been
far,
more than a few.
You haven't heard any yet, but they're really good.
Yeah, no, I'm nervous for them, but apparently it's absolutely going off tap. So in the link in the show notes, there will be the link to the hotline. If you want to give full credit to one of your friends, we'll hear our favourite guests giving full credit to people in their life that have helped them on big levels, small levels, little levels, all around. So that will be open, the Dove Men+Care hotline, to do that, which next week and for the next 5 weeks, we'll be giving away $5,000.
Yes. That's a lot.
No, like legit $5,000 to a caller for nominating their friend. Like, it's crazy.
It's
35 grand.
You got 7 opportunities.
35,000.
Just $5,000. Just there you go.
What are you doing with $5,000?
Me?
Yep.
I'm asking for a one-on-one dinner with Jezza.
Would you pay him 5?
At the full 5. Plus meals.
Well, I really do hope as well that the 5, if they're nominating their friend for giving full credit to their friend, I hope they go on a nice party together and share the 5,000. But it's incredible. So make sure you get online, and do that one, and we'll go into there. We also challenged ourselves for this period. You caught up with you messaged an old mate last week about catching up for a run.
Yep.
This week I was going to, I've done that as well, but I haven't been able to actually do it yet. But one thing I did want to do this week before we get into it is actually give full credit to someone.
Yes.
Because I've been sitting down, I had the chat with Matty DeBoer last week, and I was thinking about that and who's had impact in my life. And there's a lot of people, and I will try and do this throughout the whole series too. But one person that really comes to mind at the moment who's had a massive impact on me, probably for the last few years, is Ali Tarai. I know you boys know Ali, future golf Ali. Great guy. We've got incredibly, weird story of how we met and how we've become friends. And I just think it's sometimes like I picture if me and him are just doing something together, I'm like thinking, what are people thinking that these two guys are doing? Because like, it's two guys that you just wouldn't think are like doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I can't express how much I love this man and how much he's been an incredible support for me. He's the epitome of live to give. He is incredible, like such a good friend, so supportive. Doesn't tell me what I want to hear, tells me what I need to hear. He takes phone calls at fucking 9:30 p.m, 10 p.m. when I'm having mental breakdowns and I'm worried about work. He'll just talk me through it. It's just an incredible person that I am so lucky to have in my life. And that all came from having a coffee with a random guy on a random Tuesday about 4 years ago or 3 years ago. So it's really crazy who you can meet out there. And the people, you sort of get to this age, and I say that I'm 31 years old, you think, oh, I'm sort of set. I don't really need anyone else in my life. But it's crazy the people you can meet that continue to have impact. And I can genuinely say I wouldn't probably be doing what I am now at this level. Hopefully it is at a good level without his love and guidance. That's for certain.
You need an Ali in your life, don't you?
Everyone needs an Ali in their life. So, he's been bloody special for me. Scotty, I know I haven't given you much notice on this, but checking back in with school friends, with old family members or anyone in particular, is it something that you think about a bit?
Yeah, especially recently. I feel like maybe myself, when I get busy, and I know this for a lot of people, when you get busy, you don't, touch base as much as you should with your mates. And I'm probably a culprit of that. I probably need to get on the phone, even if it's a text, give people a buzz, even if you're just driving into work and just say, hey, that's something I'm trying to work on lately. So, no, it's something that definitely falls upon my mind for sure.
You know what I did the other week?
No.
So I'm 28 now, and me and my mates are like, it's just a different time of our lives. And we don't really go out and get on the piss as much. But whenever we catch up, it's always great. And the other week, my mate goes, hey boys, Saturday night, if you're not doing anything, come round to mine. I'm going to cook you all a nice pasta. And we all just went around. He cooked us this lamb ragu or something. It was unbelievable. And we sat there, had a wine, just played some cards, and then went home. It was good.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's the evolution of the friendships, that's for sure. You do get to that sort of age where you can start to feel some guys are still doing the young stuff, some are sort of maturing, but then there's a happy medium. I think, you got to be able to find common ground on things that are there. And in all seriousness, we talk about a lot about mental health and stuff. Like the reason that what's important with calling people, catching in, and not having a friendship built on something like, going to the pub and gambling, or going to the pub and drinking, or going out clubbing. It's like, I know that's really hard to do because some relationships are built on that, but try and have range in a relationship where it's not built off just one thing. It's not built off, hey, we're just talking about putting a multi on the weekend or this, build out, go try and have those nights, or try and go for walks or go for runs, but hey, go have beers as well. Do those things, have range in it. And, if those friends aren't doing that, it just might mean they're not the right people for you at that time in your life. So it's really important. I want to, it's a really good point you made, and something I'm thinking about right now. Like, some people might be listening to this actually in that period of life going who are my people? They might be growing distant from people. I've grown distant from so many friends, but I've got commonness with them in some areas, but definitely in different stages of our lives. But I think know that there are so many people out there. If you just keep sticking true to yourself, finding those values that you want to keep doing, you will find your people at some stage.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Hey, should we chat a bit about
We could just keep talking.
This is nice.
It's beautiful, actually.
Jeremy Cameron,
when
pretty
was he
good
on?
player.
Yeah, good player.
Yeah, he's all right. He was all right.
When was he on the pod last?
He was last on the pod 23rd of August 2018. So,
and how were your skills back then as a host?
I'd like to think they were pretty good.
because I listened back to the episode.
I can't listen back to these.
Pretty
by the
tough
way.
listen, if I'm honest.
Wow.
Actually, really good chat, but geez, it was raw.
It's funny now because I always, we're getting people back home like, oh, can you tune into the app? And I'm like, oh, fuck, poor Darcy, got to go listen to like an hour and a half. 24 minutes.
Yeah,
It's just a 24-minute chat.
Short and sharp.
Short and sharp chat.
So I think Jez had probably just been coming off, I don't know, maybe like a Coleman year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just get him in for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Quick
Those
in and
days,
out.
I remember it was like fucking, getting blood from a stone. Like, I couldn't keep the chat going much longer than that time. Keep in mind, the first episode, I think, was like 14.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, mate, we're done. This
Yeah.
is it. Anyway, I don't know how many days that is since the last one. I think we'll work that out when we get into the show. But just to give credit, to give context, he just met his now fiancée. He, was at the Giants. There's in this story, he had a really serious boat accident that we sort of speak about.
But not in full detail.
Not in full detail.
Okay.
Like, it's a lot more than what we actually spoke about at that time, and I'm going to ask him about that.
Do you reckon he'll be more open to
I
talking
think
about
now that it's been a long time since, I reckon he'll tell the full story. It's pretty full on, which is crazy. Had that trade. He used to play for Giants. Now he's at Geelong. He also
Good day in your life, Scotty.
It's a great day. You always remember where you were when Jez got traded.
Do ya?
I do.
Where were you?
I was just perched up at the very front of Nevermind Bar there in Hawthorn and saw it come through and texted Dad and
That's
look
actually
at us
really
now.
You said change the lamp names.
I said, move to Port Arlington now.
Change it to Higgins. Change it from Higgins to Jezza. No, that's cool, mate. So a lot of things. They also won a grand final.
Yep.
He's also become a father. But I think we see a side of Jez that's really funny, which he is, doesn't take life too seriously, all those bits and pieces. And for me, lucky enough to be a friend of his, and our partners are really close. I know that people can't, they have ups and downs all the time. So I'm actually really interested today to chat to him about, mate, where do you get your support from? What do you do when, you can't be smiling and up and about all the time, especially with Geelong this year? Footy is just footy, but when you're in it, it does get a bit more serious. So I'm really keen to pick his brain on those things, and even the pressures of now being in a Victorian team versus in Sydney, being a dad, expectation. Come over with high hopes for everything, and obviously they've won the flag. But what's going to happen now? And there's a lot to chat about. So really, really exciting.
Hopefully you can squeeze it all into 25 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to keep it in. We're going to try and keep it under 24 minutes again.
I like those versions.
Yeah, better edits. So, guys, as I said, if you want the chance to win $5,000 thanks to Dove Men+Care, send in a voice note via the link in the show notes and tell us who you'd give full credit to. We'll be announcing the first winner next week, and then we'll be giving away $5,000 every week after that. T's and C's apply. Let's get Jez in to have a chat.
Meow.
Jeremy, how are you, my friend?
Good, mate. Good. Very good. It's been a while.
It's been, how many days it's been since our...
Do you have that written down, do you?
our last episode. It's been 2,153 days since we last podded.
Wow. That's a lot of days.
It's a lot of days, man. It was 23rd of August, 2018. Episode number 4.
I feel like so
It went
much
for
has
24 minutes.
happened. Did it? Episode number 4.
It went for
I knew-
24 minutes.
I did know it was one of the early ones, but and I remember doing it on the table
Outside of the Giants.
where the old driving range was.
Yeah.
Happy days. A lot's happened since then.
Far out, man. A lot has happened since then. I was, we listened to it earlier. I hate personally going back and listening to my old stuff because I just cringe. It's so hard to listen to. But that episode we spoke about, you just met your current fiance. Well, your fiance, not current.
Yeah.
Your fiance for life. Indy, who's an absolute incredible person. You just sank a boat with Dawson Simpson.
Yeah.
Which I don't think we actually told the full story of that either.
No, we didn't. No, we almost never come back that day, myself and Dawes.
We breezed over it. Anyway, so that's it. That was back. Since then, you've moved to Geelong. You're a premiership player. Became a father. You're engaged to be married. And you started your own YouTube channel, which is absolutely fucking booming.
Lots happening, yeah. Lots happening, but in a short amount of time, really.
Yeah.
But exciting times. I reckon the last sort of 5-6 years has been unreal. probably apart from the COVID hubs. I wasn't a big fan of that, but everything else has been pretty good.
It's so crazy to look back, isn't it? Like, through doing this series, obviously I had Matty DeBoer on last week and chatting with him about those times, and you think, 2,153 days since that last podcast was released. What does the next 2,153 days hold, if that's what's happened in that time? It's actually scary to think about. It
is scary, yeah. I definitely haven't thought that far ahead. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner tonight, so I'm that sort of bloke, mate. But, a lot can happen in a short period of time. But, the last few years has been awesome, especially living down in Geelong. It's been a big change for me, but something that I've really enjoyed, and I feel like that's definitely home now. So.
Oh, mate, I've been lucky enough to spend some time at your beautiful property. We had New Year's Eve up there one year with you, me, Toby, and Trippy. Is it Trippy?
Trippy. He was back out again in the shed the other night, actually. I had to kick him out. But
he's a scary man. With this episode and this series, obviously, it's so good to catch up and chat with you. And we're lucky, if I can't say so myself, that we still have a good relationship to this day. Obviously, our partners are both really close friends as well, so it's been good to stay in touch. But this series around catching up with old mates, checking back in, is around that, in fact, of like seeing what's happened over those last times. How have you found that personally yourself? If you go back over the last sort of 2 years, like time flies so quickly. How have you managed to stay in touch with people? Is it something that you try to do? Is it hard? It's so easy to lose contact with people. And even like moving a footy club myself, there's only a handful of guys that you stay in touch with regularly, but you still care about other people, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's, I'm the exact same as that. I'm always trying to, I guess, living out of town a bit. I'm about 25 to half an hour out of town, so I try to call someone on the way home most days. And, that's a good way to check back in too. Even though it is a short phone call, it might be to someone that you haven't, heard from for a while. So it is very important, and you find, even though you haven't been in contact with a lot of people, it might be 6 months, it might be a year, it's just so awesome when you it's like you've spoke to each other the day before, so yeah, it is definitely important, and you sort of get lost in it all, don't you? Especially since having little Macy, it feels like the days are really long, but the weeks absolutely fly, and it's so exciting. But yeah, everyone seems to be having their own children. I'm 31 now, and we're at that age, I guess. So you would know what that's like. It's a busy period. So yeah,
it's a crazy period, man. I was chatting to the boys about this actually in the other episode. We're reflecting on sort of what's happened around catching up with mates and staying in touch. And I think having a kid and becoming a dad is the best thing, obviously, that's ever happened, and absolutely amazing. But it has been a big challenge for me to stay in touch with people, because you go to training or you go to work and then you come home and you've got to be on.
Yeah.
And I think your mates that don't have kids, it's like one of those things where they sort of think you don't want to hang out anymore, but you do, but you've got other priorities at home, so it's actually hard to stay in touch with those guys as well.
It is, yeah, it is definitely. And that's, I'm in that exact boat at the moment, I reckon. Probably half our friends or close friends are, had a child or having a child at the moment, and then the other half probably haven't even thought about it. So it is probably lucky being around a football club. A lot of your close mates you do see every day at the football club. It's more than one's away from that. So nice to have people come out the farm. It's nice to invite people over. That's one of my favourite things to do, and a lot of people sort of don't really get to experience lighting a big bonfire or having a few beers out on the property. So that's a good way of doing it, and that's something I try and involve a lot of people in.
It's a good way to do it, man. And you do yourself and India's so good at that hospitality piece. Talk us through the farm, like when you maybe let's actually go forward. The decision to go from the Giants to Geelong, if we're recapping some of what's happened over the last little bit. How hard was that decision? I can imagine, and you're a very, very humble man, so I know you wouldn't go there, but I will. I can imagine would have been a lot of clubs, lining up to win you over. How did Geelong win that? Was it the factor of being out of Melbourne and you can have your own little oasis, still do your fishing, have your farming, and have that little bit of a community element? Like, how did it win? How did the discussion even start?
It's interesting. It was actually quite late in the first COVID year that I even thought about it. My manager was, he basically did what every manager should do, and that's push me in just go and explore if you want to. Even if you don't want to make a decision straight away, you don't have to. If you want to stay, just bang, we'll stay. But the options are there. And I didn't really take him up on that until sort of later in that hub year. And then it was very much I was 99.9% not leaving in my mind at that time. And then, I spoke to Collingwood, I spoke to the Cats, and they were the only two that I wanted to speak to. I was a Collingwood supporter as a kid. That was probably the only real reason that I spoke to them. They were really interested, but I don't think I could ever see myself leaving Sydney, the city, and moving into Melbourne, the city. Yeah. If I was going to make the move, it was always going to be somewhere that's a bit more remote, if you like, down the highway. There's only the one team there, and you can live out of town, and you're 20 minutes from GMHBA Stadium. So it was only really Geelong or the Giants all along, and that was the toughest decision I ever made. I remember actually going down the highway, and we went down to Gerringong, I think it was, out of Sydney, and stayed in a swag, and Indy had like a full whiteboard and wrote like pros and cons on it, because that's where my mind was at. I had to see it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a bit bizarre, but that next day, we actually went for a swim the morning of after we woke up that morning down in Gerringong, and went for a swim, and I was like, far out, it's cold, but I just randomly said, without thinking, far out, it's cold in the water, but better get used to it if I'm going to Geelong. And I was like, actually, Indy pulled me up on it, and it was one of those moments where I'm like, I think, it's meant to be now. So when we made the trip back to Sydney, I called my manager and said, yeah, I want to make the move. And, looking back, it was one of the best things I'd done, albeit being very difficult. You're leaving behind some really good mates up there and a great football club that's going places. But, yeah, it was just my time to move on.
That's a really cool story, man, about making hard decisions. I know it's hard for every player to leave a football club or a workplace, even just thinking in general, like a workplace, anyone out there who loves what they do and loves what they work, but sometimes there's other opportunities that are hard to say no to. Your connection to that place, obviously being like a player there at a young age, your relationship with, the whole list, you're obviously so connected to that club. Toby, living with Toby for so long. And I remember the first thing actually in my mind, weirdly, about you leaving at that time was, how are you going to tell Toby?
Yeah.
Like, I was just thinking in my head, how the fuck is this going to go down? Yeah. Like, how are you going to tell him that you're going? Like, I was sort of pro, like, mate, I think you have to go, but I just don't know how that was going to work.
Yeah.
Was that something that, like, not just him, but I suppose coaches and other people, like, was that a big hard thing to do? Yeah,
that was extremely difficult. And I'm not really someone that, likes those,
Deep in.
Yeah. And I'm like, I remember sitting on the couch, and I was like, the first person I called wasn't even Leon, it was Toby.
Yeah.
And I let him, apart from my manager, I spoke to Toby first and let him know, and like that was hard. That was really hard because
what did he say?
Honestly, he
wouldn't have been happy.
Nah, he's one of those. It almost, when your parents say like they're not angry, they're just disappointed. Yeah. It was like one of those moments. And coming from Toby, it was almost worse.
You don't want to disappoint him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, I understand it sort of thing, but like it's, disappointing that you're leaving. So that was that was probably the toughest one out of the way. I called a fair few other players, called Leon as well, and had Leon come around. So yeah, got him around and sat him down on the couch, and he knew before, he knew before I even said anything. But that was a tough chat as well for 5 or 10 minutes. But
it's underrated how hard that is. Like I think I'm sitting with it now. I've never done that before.
Yeah,
but it's a challenging thing to look friends and family in the eye and tell them what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. It was tough. So it had to be done though as well. So
yeah,
and then in saying that, it was still like a week or so until the trade and whatnot.
To actually get done.
It wasn't getting done, and the time run out. I never watched footy shows, but there's like a draft, like it's live, sort of on the footy app, and I was watching it at dinner with Indy, and it ran out of time, and I'm like, I'm still a Giants player in my head. I'm going back. Yeah. I've got to call everyone again. I'm going
back. Got to get back in the WhatsApp group.
So But yeah, Andrew Mackey called me and said, it'd been done and whatnot. It just hadn't gone through. So yeah, it was stressful times though. That was for sure.
You said it a couple times early on, but about like the hub that period and you didn't enjoy it and it was hard. Like, what was that? What didn't you? Obviously, it wasn't enjoyable, and I don't think anyone had a great time there.
Yeah.
But where were you at in that space? Did you just not enjoy being away from friends, family, being locked in a hotel room? Like,
yeah, being the hardest part was probably being locked up for me. It just felt like I was in a cage, which was my room, and they did it pretty well. Like, as well as we could have really done it. We had hotels and you could, there's games rooms and there's things to do, but it's just not me. Like, I just love getting outside. So it was, that was tough. Looking back, if we had Macy at that stage, I don't even think I could have went. And there was a few people that made that decision, and it was tough and they probably got slammed, from the outside world for, it's not that hard. You can just go and play footy but it's so difficult. I can't even leave her for a couple of nights, so that would have been challenging. But yeah, not being able to go fishing and just get out and about was so hard. The second hub, I got one at the Giants, and then I had the second hub over in Perth with the Cats boys. So it was a bit different because there was less restrictions over there the second time, so you could get out and about, and it was a little bit more enjoyable. But at the same time, I was trying to play good footy for the club that I've just moved to. I'm doing hamstrings and not playing the best and not out there as much as I want to be. And it was a tough little period. Looking back, I was really struggling there for a while. So it was nice to push through and get out the other side of it.
Did you confide in anyone, or did you try and, obviously with Indy,
yeah.
Like, how did you cope with that throughout that period?
Yeah, I think it was important. I had Indy, I had, my mum and dad and parents, they were awesome. But yeah, Indy was probably the biggest one. That she was actually stuck in Sydney, I think, and couldn't get back. Even when I returned, she couldn't get back or something. Yeah, it was all, with the borders and stuff, it was quite difficult. But it's important to talk about that, and looking back, I should have talked more for sure. Even to the coaches at the Giants in that first half, I should have just let them know how I was feeling, and maybe we could have done a bit more about it. But I'm one that does keep a little bit in, probably more so. I'm still learning, and it's something that I've developed and tried to get better at. Just speaking to the right people at the right times, because I'm one that sort of lets it all build up, and then the volcano erupts at some stage, and it's can be a difficult period. So. Yeah, I've tried to limit that by talking to more people and getting better at that side of my life.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to do that as well. It's fucking hard.
It is.
It's a continual improvement. I actually started reading a book the other day.
Did you?
Cool. Yeah, because when you obviously...
Like your first book?
No, it's...
Do
you know
read
when
often?
you're... so there's two things, right? When you're a footy player and then when you leave the game, you don't realise how much time you had to do the things that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
The same thing happens when you're like a man and then you have a kid. You don't realise like when you don't have how much time you had before you had a kid.
Yeah.
And Jazz and Max in the Gold Coast at the moment, so I'm flying back and forward to see them when I'm working and going back. And on the way home, it was the first time on the plane I'd be by myself for like a long time. I read half a book in that time. It was called The Courage to Be Disliked. It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about right now, but I just wanted to just share that.
Maybe I should read something.
If you can, it's a fucking good thing to do. It's so hard though.
It
is so hard.
Oh mate, it's
to
one
switch
of the
your head
hardest
off.
things.
It's like because the only time I could do it on the plane was because my phone was out.
Yep.
I was sitting there and I was like, well, the only thing I can actually do right now is either watch a series or read a book. And I was like, I'm going to read the book.
Yeah.
And it was good. And the point of that actually was, someone once told me this. I think I've got a really good mate, Ali Tarai, who helps me out with a lot of things, and I heard him say this on a podcast once. Like, there's no problem that hasn't been had by someone else and that hasn't been documented in a book.
Yeah.
And like I found like reading this book, either like 2 chapters of it, it was like 6 things where I was like, I thought I was the only person in the world that did this, and it just wasn't true. So it's very interesting. I found it's a good little coping mechanism for me. That's for sure. Hey, the flag. It's pretty incredible, man. Like, to go through the hubs and all that, the change of club. There's obviously when you do move as well, and you're moving your family, you're moving bits and pieces, you're sort of putting your balls on the line to then actually follow through and do something about it.
Yep.
Was it a celebration or sometimes even just a bit of relief?
Yeah, both. Definitely both. There was relief. I said to Andrew Mackie, like, thanks for obviously getting me to the club, but they gave up 3 first rounders, so there was a bit of and I think I've said this before. I probably should have been more stressed about that than I have been.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought it through, but I'm like, it hadn't been done before.
3 first rounders.
3 first rounders to the Giants for myself, and then in
Do you know
that
who
first,
they are?
Well, a few of them are back. Like Tanner actually come back to, and I think we got Max. Max was our first pick that year.
So they've done pretty well.
Yeah, pick 20 or something, and we got Max
Holmes.
Yeah, so, but don't quote me on that. Yeah. However, yeah, they gave up a lot, so I feel like I needed to, win a flag at some stage. But it happened in 2022. It was an awesome year. We went on a great run. It was about the midway, rolling into the bye. We started to play good footy, and then after the bye, we didn't lose, I think, or something like that. Maybe lost one game and won a heap in a row, but we just didn't feel like we were going to lose that year. And then it was the Collingwood game where we won the first final. It was a really tight game, and they were up, we were up. There was lots of lead changes, and when we won that game and went straight to the prelim, and then we felt like we were going to win it from there. So it's probably easier to say that looking back, but it was just a really good run. Everyone was on the same page, and it felt like it was meant to be.
What about like going back, right? I think it was 2016 Giants Bulldogs game.
Yep.
Yeah, 2016.
Yep.
What? And this is probably a hard question now, reflecting. But what was the difference between those two teams, or do you think it is just momentum and a little bit of luck as well that comes into it at the end of the day? Like,
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think a bit of both. I remember that game for the wrong reasons because I was worst on ground. If you go back, I probably had 4 touches and kicked 1 point, I think, and I'll remember it forever. You know, I actually feel like I'm a better player because of that game.
Really?
Yeah, I played that bad in that prelim. So,
what do you think? Just didn't play it well, or didn't prepare, or just overawed by the occasion? Maybe.
Yeah, you sort of don't really know how to like prepare for that. Was when we started, in 2015 we started knocking off some teams, and then we got real belief and got going in 2016. Yeah, we're flying, the tsunami was up and about, and it's sort of all new to you, and I just struggled in that game. I don't know, I was just probably thinking too much about how do I get a kick here rather than just sticking to the process and making sure you do all the little things well that gets you in a good position to perform. And I just got it all wrong on that day and played poorly, and we got done by a kick, I think it was. So learn a lot from that game, but it was 2019 getting to the grand final as well. That was an awesome experience. We got rolled by a much better team, Richmond, on the day, and that was another one that was pretty tough to take, but it was nice to get on the other end of a winning one, 3 or 4 years later.
What's it like playing with, some of the likes of those guys you talk about? Joel Selwood being his last game. It's almost like poetic what happens with that last sort of kick. Patrick Dangerfield, like so many big stars in that game. Yourself, so many role players. I know Closey even is so well rated in that team too. But how could you sort of look at that period now and then fast forward into what's happening at the moment? A little bit of a reshuffle of guys going in and out, but it almost seems like you were written off a little bit, and now you're sort of coming back, and everyone's a chance to win this year again.
Yeah, that's right. It's because
can we say this? Like a couple of weeks ago, we were meant to do the pod. I think. No, maybe it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago we meant to do the pod.
It was in the middle of the... we had a bit of a 6 losses in a row or something.
And
I remember now. we had like random meetings, a few more meetings.
And it's just
than
funny,
normally.
like everyone at the start of the... And to be honest, this is so fair enough for Geelong because it actually is true. You guys have an incredible work-life balance. You don't don't sort of sweat the small things.
Yep.
But it was funny because you called me that day and you're like, you know what? Like, winners have parties, losers have meetings, and you had like 6 meetings sort of scheduled throughout the week.
Yeah,
I was like, you know what, it's fucking good to see Geelong have some meetings because you haven't had any for a while.
No, we don't. I was speaking to Mark Blitzars at this time or just around that time, and he's like, I've lost 6 games in a row. I've never lost 3 in a row, and he's played 250 games.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so you can imagine like Hawke and everyone else like that. They'd be all in the same boat. Scotty even.
Yeah.
Hadn't lost 3 games in a row for, since forever. So it was an interesting little stage of that. But, yeah, playing, with those guys, we had Joel, like you mentioned. Danger
Hawkins.
had a great game. Isaac Smith, obviously
Yeah.
Norm Smith medalist. We just felt like we were all on the same page, but there's so many other guys that play awesome roles. People forget, like Tyson Stengel come to the club
incredible.
that year, his story, and then he kicks 4 in the grand final. Like that's forgotten. Sam de Koning coming from nowhere at the start of the year and playing the whole year as, a lockdown at full back basically and dominating and then popping up, kicking goal in the grand final. Maxi Holmes was unfortunate with the injury and missed that one, but he had a great finals campaign and we can see what he does now. So there's a nice little mix, and that's the same feeling I have right now. If you look at what's been happening in the AFL world at the moment, the Swans are dominating and then they lose 2 in a row. Carlton lost on the weekend again, where we won 7 in a row and then we lost 7 in a row, and then we're winning again. Like it's anyone can beat anyone on any given day. So that's what's exciting about it. It's really motivating.
I feel like we say this every year, but it genuinely feels like it's the closest year
It's tight
by far.
And the Hawks are flying, but they were equal 4th or something, but 13th on the ladder.
Yeah.
Or how does that even make sense? It's bizarre, but yeah, it's exciting times. We got really, like, a couple of guys, just young kids coming along, like Ollie Dempsey is just...
He's a star.
Yeah, he's so good to watch.
Good.
And just wins his one-on-one contest. He jumps at the ball, kicks goals, gets forward. Like, these guys, Maxi Holmes, what he's doing, he's just an absolute gun, and he's going to be a serious weapon for, the next 10 years. It's a nice little blend, and there's a lot of experience to help these younger guys. And they keep... Like, I'm 31 going on 32 the start of next year. They keep you young around the club, and I think that's important to have that blend that we've got.
What's someone who I feel doesn't, maybe it's just me, but doesn't get the not the credit they deserve. I know they're highly rated, but like Chris Scott, took over a really successful team, but then maintained that success for still to this day.
Yeah,
like it's underrated how well I think he's obviously going.
Yeah.
You look at 2 coaches I think at the moment that stand out over like the generation. It's John Longmire and Chris Scott.
Yeah.
What's he? I know we see him a little bit in the media, but what does he actually like day to day? Like, what's his management style? What's his like coaching style? And then I suppose who are the other sort of big players in that assistant role under him?
Yeah, there's he's got really good coaches around him, but the way he coaches, and it's probably easier to see it when we weren't going that well in that 6-week period. He's like, after every game, he's like, don't stew on it. Let's come in Monday. Every Monday looks the same, whether we win or lose, and that's whether we win 7 in a row or lose 6 in a row. And it's actually hard to do.
Yeah,
but
it's harder said than done. Easier said than done.
Yeah, but it is that way. Like, you walk in and there's no point moping around and stewing on the small things. It's like, hang on, how do we get better? We know that our football can stack up against anyone if we play our game the way we want to play. So he's really positive all the time like that. He's great with, in our meetings, it's all pretty positive. There's always, room for improvement and clips you can look at, but it's more team-based. It's no picking out individuals, and even skill errors get looked past because, we know we can hit certain kicks. There's no point getting disappointed. And then you're coached in a way that, like, all the coaches are there for you if you want it. If you want, like, drive your own, destiny, I guess. Or is that the right word? I don't think it is.
Drive your own.
Yeah, career. Drive your own career. That probably works better, doesn't it?
Well, destiny as well.
It just sounded really like... it sounded weird, that, didn't it?
Like Shakespeare.
But drive your own career. So if you want to do... If you don't want to go in these 2 drills, but you want to do contested marking because that's better for you, then let's grab a coach and let's go do that. If you want to sit there and do a million more handballs than anyone else, then we'll stay after hours and help you if you want to look at extra footage. But you drive it. It's on the player. So if you don't want to do any of that, then we won't come and chase you. So I think that, and that actually works the other way. You would think guys who, take the piss a bit and just, just not rock up and not do this and not do that. But everyone actually does the other and goes and sources coaches and wants to get their game better. And I think that's something that's been developed over the years with the likes of Joel. He was big on that. He was massive on that. And then you got Hawkeye, Danger, all the ones, sort of under him or around him have been big drivers of that. And that's what keeps the club going in the right direction. Every single year, we missed finals last year, but we believe that our game we can win the grand final this year. So what can we do about it? Let's train the way we want to play and be the best we can. So it's a big belief. It's exciting times with exciting. 6 or 7 games to go before finals.
Yeah, it's hectic, man. So exciting. How do you think you are at your best personally now? Like a lot of, I think you've got to this time in your career where you've obviously played some incredible football, and we know that it's not a one-size-fits-all model for all players. Like some guys love to spend a lot of time at the club, do their extras and do that sort of stuff. One thing I love that you've sort of adopted in the last few years, I suppose, publicly, but before that, I'm sure you were already doing this. You just weren't filming it. Is your off-field, like with the YouTube, your content creation, like it's genuinely incredible what you've been able to do, and like the community you're building through YouTube and your socials and all that stuff too. Do you find that gives you energy, that like it gives you a great release to do both?
Yeah, I like to keep busy. So I am, at the football club, I'm there to, train and get better. And what complements that really well is what I do away from the club. So I've got the farm and my family, which is nice. And that, takes up a lot of my time. But yeah, with the YouTube stuff, I thought, why don't I, share this with, some people as well. I didn't really know how well it would go. And you always push me in this area as well. And it's something I sort of slowly got into, and then got put on the back burner, and then I sort of picked up and got it going again. But it does give me a release that's completely away from football. It's something people really enjoy. I've found that out pretty quickly, and I sort of want to do more and more and more. But you're always juggling football as well and the family. So it's something I definitely want to do after football. But where I can, let's sort of integrate it with football as well. So it's really exciting, and it's just different. I just feel different. It sort of feels a bit weird sometimes when I'm walking around with a GoPro just by myself. Like if my neighbour was looking over, he'd be like, "What are you doing over there?" But it's really good fun.
What I love as well, what you're doing with it is, like, I suppose you look at the personality types. We've probably got different personalities, in the sense where I think, for me, like people would see me as someone who just to jump in front of a camera and do stuff. Whereas for yourself, like country, I reckon early days you were sort of a bit more behind the camera, but I love that you've now adopted this. It's always been you and who you are, but you doing it is so much more powerful than a lot of people doing it, because a lot of the people that watch your stuff and your content, like they're just not doing this themselves. I suppose like the camping content is probably what I'm trying to say, is like something that isn't as exposed to as like the other stuff that is mainstream. Yeah. So it's really cool to be able to see behind the scenes of obviously your farm, the golf, the camping stuff that you're doing, getting the boys out there, obviously the fishing as well. It's just unreal, man. I absolutely love it. Who do you like? Who inspires you? Like, who do you look at in this space? We might not even know any of these people, but like, who's sort of someone that you like in this digital media space that you've been? Because I know you've done a couple of fishing trips with other guys and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have. I've done. I've been out with ET, and a lot of these guys have an Al McGlashan. So they're fishing. They have their own fishing shows, and it's sort of. I was there as a guest, but I'm sort of like, I was really interested in how this all works. And for me, you sort of touched on it. I was like that kid in class where I would like run away from home if I had to public speak. So like, and I knew that was coming up at school. We had a presentation, you have to stand up in front of the class. Like, that was a nightmare for me. So it's something I had to get better at over time. And I think with football, that definitely helps. But just seeing these guys film their fishing show and I'm there as a guest, I don't really have to say much, but I'm like, oh, they like, it's not all smooth sailing.
No,
like
so many fuck ups.
Yeah, they stuff up words and forget what places we're in and whatnot. And they do a lot of it, so they nail most of it, but it's not all perfect. And I think that made me realise, like, I'm not perfect. I just need to be myself in front of the camera. So that's what I've been trying to do more of. And it's good to see people enjoying it, and also I guess pushing me to do more and more. of it because, it is so good. So I'm always trying to come up with more ideas. I'll lay down on the pillow at night and I'm like, what can I do next? What can I, change that's going to be a bit more exciting? Or so there's plenty, in that space to come. But
I'm sure everyone's seen it as well, but Jezza Cameron on YouTube, we'll have the link in the show notes, 38.4 thousand subscribers, only 37 videos too, which is, I know maybe a lot of people aren't into the analytics, but I am. That's bloody incredible. We've had over 1.6 million views already, mate, so it's a pretty sick thing. I can't wait to sort of, I don't know, something that I love about people and I respect the most is just giving things a crack, and I think it doesn't have to be perfect. We're always sort of talking about in this show, you look back to some of your early videos, I'm sure you fucking hate them. But
delete them.
Yeah, literally. But we say it a lot. If you're not embarrassed by your early stuff, you started too late, and you just got to give yourself a good head start to just go out there and give it a crack, which you've obviously done, which I love. Where do you want it to get to? Is there any other sort of things you're looking at doing in the off season, or?
Yeah, we're going to hit the road, so in our caravan for sure.
The titanium?
In the titanium, mate. So
I want to get a titanium. I spoke to your contact actually there.
Did you?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, you'd suit the caravan, mate. What size are you after? A nice big one?
Yeah. XL.
XL. Nah, that'd be unreal. We'll have to plan a trip.
Yeah, maybe.
You're so busy. I know how
we
busy
go a
you
bit
are.
more off grid. You go to the main cities.
Oh.
We go sort of like
less people the better for me.
Yeah. You go to the caravan parks. We go like right out.
You're the off grid stuff.
Off grid. Yeah.
So we're planning on doing that in the off season just for a month. I keep on saying to Indy, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and she's like, two or three. But she does love it as well. And when you get on the road, Macy, growing up camping and doing all that stuff is so much fun, and you just run into so many families. Like we've got Ryan Griffin and Jazz and their family. They're on the road. They've almost completed their second year on going around Australia at the moment.
Off-grid with the Griffins? Are they still
off-grid?
Are they still doing
Griffin's
the
off-grid.
Instagram page? Griff's off-grid?
Griffin's off-grid, yeah. And it looks special, especially WA. It's so remote and beautiful over there. But, we're going to go up the East Coast. We've got a wedding that we have to get to in Noosa. Mm-hmm. So, we're just going to, tie that in with a trip. So I want to take the people on that trip and do that. And after football, there's going to be, I want to do what the Griffins have basically done and get around Australia. So that's where it'll lead to. There'll be other content along the way. I love pretty much every sport, so I've got too many hobbies. But I love sharing them where I can with the people. So plenty of things to come.
Yeah, we're talking Clubby Sports. Obviously, that's where we the only place we'd put that content out, and we'll sign that off there. Mm-hmm. With obviously the camping, everything going on there, which is very, very exciting. To just mention before about Ryan Griffin, obviously we spoke about this in episode way back, but this is when you first met Indy, who is Ryan Griffin, former teammate, star, great person, great player. His wife Jazz, sister is Indy.
Yes.
So you're engaged. You're basically brother-in-laws.
Yeah, that's right.
That was how you first met. If you want to listen to the first episode, Jeremy used to jump the back fence and hide it from Griff to meet Indy when she was living at the house.
Yeah.
But all's turned out well now.
It was like 6 months of doing that.
all sort of come together now. It must be pretty cool. What's your relationship like with, I know how strong it is with Griff and obviously Dor Simpson as well.
Yep.
You three are thick as thieves, as they like to say.
Yep.
Are they guys that you were talking about before that you try and stay in touch with on and everything that you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I speak to Griff and Dorse a lot, and we catch up a lot. It's been nice. Big Dorsey's come down. He's up in Bright at the moment.
Yes.
So,
is it Puckapunyal?
yeah, Puckapunya.
Puckapunya. Yeah.
I think.
Beautiful area.
Is it?
Puckapunya.
I don't think it is. I actually don't think it is.
I'm not sure how to say it. How do you say it?
Poor Punker.
Oh, Poor Punker. Sorry.
Yeah, you nearly got me.
Do you know that once
it's right next to it's the
right
same,
next to Bright.
It's pretty much joined.
So do you know that I was up there a while ago for Christian Jackson, mate of mine's wedding, former teammate of both of ours actually, different clubs.
He has a house up there.
He's got a house in Bright. He was getting married, and I was like going through the area, and I'm like, I fucking got to call Dorse. Like this is where he is. We'll catch up.
Yeah.
I called him. He answered. I drove past his house, like he was out the front as I called him.
No way.
It was fucking weird. It was so
you caught
weird.
up with him there?
I didn't. I got too hungover. I didn't end up catching up. But he was. He's like, mate, we'll go fishing with the kids, and I was like, yeah. But I didn't end up having. But he's one of those beautiful people that we love.
He is, yeah. No, it's nice to chat to those two. They both have, Dorse has 3 children and Griff has the 2. So, they're great fathers and people that I look up to. And, they're a bit older than me, but we've been great mates, since the first day we met pretty much. I remember talking to Big Dorsey. He got to the club. I'm like, "G'day, I'm Jeremy." And he's like, "G'day, I'm Dorse." And then he said, You've got a GSP, don't you?" "I've got 2." And I was like, "It's just Dorse." Like, look, at the time, I'm like, "Oh, that's amazing." And he goes, "There's heaps of Rangers out the front. Do you have a Ranger?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've got a Wild Track." And he goes, "I've got a Wild Track too." And it just sums up Dorse,
Mate.
And he's an awesome person. So I caught up with him last off season, and then Griff pretty much when he's home, he parks the caravan on the farm and lives with us. So. Yeah, it's awesome.
Dawson, just a quick story on him. I think I might have told this story a long time ago, but he's like one of my favourite. Like, I'd say he's like a father figure for myself. If I had a problem when I was in Sydney, I'd just call him.
Yeah.
And I remember my car used to break down like all the time when I was up there. I had this shocking little Ford Focus. It was actually Juzz's because I didn't have a car, and he'd come out like throughout, like in the break of like weights and meetings, he'd come out and like fix my car for me.
Yeah.
When I was there.
Yeah.
He's just that guy that just knows how to do everything.
Yeah. That's what he is, exactly that guy. My old man, Leon, not Leon Cameron, the coach, but my dad, Leon, he's like that as well. But Dorse, last time he was at our house, fixed everything, and they're all little jobs that Indy's been into me for like a year.
Yeah.
And Dorse just comes in 45 minutes, fixes everything. She's like, it was that easy, and you couldn't find time for it. But he's a really good man.
Before we get through, I just want to go back to that one story as well, because the audience will want to know this. The story around you and Dawson with the boat.
Yep.
That was fresh off. And I remember at the time, Lee Merrick, who was at the club, was like, "Oh, boys, maybe just skip over that story. Don't tell it in full length of what happened with you and Dawson." Because that actually could have been a really serious
shocking,
crash.
yeah.
It actually rattled you guys for a couple weeks.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. No, that was a scary one. It was the day after Dawson's 30th birthday, and he stayed and enjoyed it with everyone. And I was like, mate, he was so keen to go fishing the next day. And I'm like, "You're going to be hungover, but I'm happy to have 3 beers and like get home, get the boat ready. I'll pick you up in the morning. You just jump in, basically. I'll do the rest." And fair enough, we were out there, and we got hit by we weren't catching any fish. And then we went to this like secret spot. It's a bit more reefy, and there's always fish there, but there's an element of danger with that sometimes. And it was a calm day, but it was so calm, I can't even explain, but this one wave just stood up and broke over the reef and then hit the boat, and we were just, when you get on a surfboard and you just catch the wave like at the top, but then it scoots you down onto it. Like, that's exactly what we're doing, but we were in my boat. It was so surreal and scary, but it was so lucky that we both didn't or one of us didn't get knocked out, because that's how, the worst case scenario happens. It's we can both swim, but if you get knocked out, you can't swim, and I wouldn't be able to hold Dorse up if he, it's hard to even think about now. But we, basically.
So you're in your boat, wave and
we were skiing with the boat, and then it swung around, and then we were going backwards at this stage, and then it sort of dug in, and the wave kept going, but the boat dug in and stopped, and then there was huge. I was still on the boat. Dorse got up. He was on the boat but jumped off to get out, because we're right next to the rocks at this stage, and that's another way. If you get pushed into the rocks, you'll get knocked out. So he's swimming out and duck diving, and I'm like holding onto the steering wheel, but the water is I'm still standing on the boat, but the water's at my hips, and I'm like, it's fully sunk, like the boat's fully underwater. So I've jumped out of the boat, but I didn't even really jump, because I'm like,
you're in the water.
I'm in the water. And then there was a huge set. So it was just a big set come through. And that night, we didn't know, but there was a massive storm out at sea. And looking back, that was the first waves from that storm that's way out there. They just come in. And from that moment onwards, the swell got bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, we unfortunately caught the first one. And we duck dived under a few waves and finally got out the back and just started treading water, and there was just no one around. And then it all set in. It was such a scary sort of thought process. We just got nothing, like no phone. My car keys are in the boat. Like, everything's gone. I normally have the dog with me. He wasn't with me that day. Jazz and Ryan were gonna come, but they didn't, because they were hungover from Dorse's thing, which I'm like,
thank God.
Yeah, thank God, because, yeah, it would have been even worse. But yeah, we luckily waved down a lady. She was way up on, you know how big the cliffs are around Sydney?
Yeah.
She was way up doing a walk on the cliffs above where it happened, and she radioed or called the police, and then they got in touch with the lifesaving club around at Manly. So we were sort of nearly around at Manly at this stage, and they come on jet skis and yeah.
So how long were you treading water?
Oh, not that long. It felt like 6 months, but it was probably like 10 minutes. And yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, were you scared of sharks?" It wasn't like we were that petrified with everything else that happened that was the last thing we thought of. You know, I didn't even think of that at all. But
And the boat sunk, obviously. Or was it on the rocks?
The boat was on the rocks. Like, you couldn't even recognise the boat. And yeah, we ended up getting dropped off the jet skis on the beach. And you know, like in Manly, how many people are swimming? Like the beach is packed, and we're in like
Full clothes.
full clothes, no shoes because you get them off first thing because you can't swim with them on. But walking out of the water from like your neck in full clothes, and everyone's like, what are these people doing? It was so weird, and the police were all waiting for us there, but they had no idea who we were. So the story never got out. Yeah, that was sort of a good thing. Until we told the club that, and we told Leon and told the club and the media, around the club, and they sort of got on top of it. But yeah, it was probably a good thing about being in Sydney at that stage. No one knew who we were, so they never really reported it. There was a little tiny story in the paper saying that I sunk a boat, but there was nothing about, what could have happened. It was all...
It's a pretty,
it all blew over pretty quickly.
Now that you're I don't know about you, but from hearing you talk about it, I feel like this is relevant. When you're like a young man, you just don't... that's a scary thing, obviously, and it would have hit you for 6, but... Especially now that you've got like Macy and got a family, you look back at those moments, you think, "Fucking hell!" Like that. That was a serious,
It was a serious
thing.
one, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I called Mum, and that was tough, to tell what happened, and the old man, but it's all. I'm definitely taking less risks now. I'm a dad
too,
for sure, and even getting on a plane, I'm like, I'm not scared of flying, but I'm like, I'm not in control.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather steer it myself.
Yeah, same. Just got to ask.
Yeah,
Apparently they
let you.
welcome to that, yeah.
It's weird how I think about things differently now, and I think naturally you just do when you become a father, but looking back, that was a scary one. And so I've actually sold my boat now, so...
You sold your old boat?
Yeah,
I
bought a new boat because I was in Sydney, I was fishing, I was loving it. So
Yeah.
it forced me to buy a better boat when I was up there, but then I just didn't use it as much down here in Geelong. It's sort of sitting in the shed a lot, and I started to feel sorry for the boat, just getting dust on it, and the chooks were roosting on it, and like it wasn't even... So I cleaned it up and sold it recently, but I'll still get out and fish. Griff's got his little tinny in there, and I take that out, but...
I'm sure the tinny will...
I've got just too
get
many
those
other
waves.
hobbies,
Yeah. Hey, mate, to finish up, you've been incredibly generous with your time. We appreciate it immensely. Part of this series, we wanted to, one, promote young males, especially, to check back in with mates, check in, see what's been happening, catch up and support where they can. And then the other part was to think about the people in their life that have helped them through the last, period that it's been. For us, it's, 2,153 days. If you have to give full credit to someone or to a couple people in your life that have helped you immensely, maybe they know they have, or maybe some people probably don't even know they have. It doesn't have to be a massive thing, but could just be small things they do each day, and you want to sort of highlight a couple people. Who would they be?
Yeah, definitely. So if I was giving full credit to... I guess full credit has to go to Indy first.
Yes.
Because she's always been by my side,
Amazing,
the last 8 years or so. Hopefully I didn't get that wrong. I think it was about 8 years. But yeah, she's been awesome, she's fantastic mother and just helped me, and she can, because she's around me a lot, I guess she can pick up on like when I'm a little bit more stressed than I normally am, especially, people think I don't really get too stressed about football, but you can from time to time, and I've got a lot of other things I enjoy doing, so I don't try and get too focused on it, but I can still think about it a lot. So she knows when to pick the moments, and we can talk about it. In the football world, I guess Nigel Lappin, I'll give credit to him because he was the forward line coach, when we won the flag, and he just always, it wasn't even just with me, but he's so positive and backs you in like Scotty and the other coaches are exactly the same, but he always backed me in and flicked me a message to, say, mate, you're playing great football, you just haven't got the reward at the moment, keep working hard. Those little things that, make you better and keep you focused and just reassure you that you're on the right track. That was really good throughout that stage. He's still at the Cats, and he does this for everyone, not just me. So I'll give credit to him. And probably another one, but since I've come down to Geelong, probably Hawkey has been awesome as well. He's a lot like myself. He's got a bigger property than me. He's got a bigger hobby farm. He
doesn't like a hobby farm.
He doesn't. A few players, I can't remember what teams they were. They have said that to him, and he's not happy on the
hobby farmer.
So you're a hobby farmer, mate. But he's got 150 acres. It's quite large. But he's been great for Emma as well, like with Indy, and accepting us into the club and teaching us a lot about Geelong and the people and the way things work, and also being so positive at all times. He's one of those ones as well. So there's a few. I'm giving credit to everyone here.
No, mate, that's what it's about.
Yeah. There's a lot of great people out there.
How good's that? Hey, Jeremy, thank you, mate. Thank you for your time today. Been great to catch up and pod after all these times. Hopefully not too long between drinks. Can't wait to see what happens with the Cats. Can't wait to see what happens with you and Indy and the fam. I know that it's an incredible little squad you've got going there, that you guys are taking on the world, and then obviously really excited about what and love that you found a passion outside of footy that you're absolutely dominating as well, mate. So I think know out there that you're inspiring not only a lot of fans, but a lot of your mates as well. I think that even you wouldn't know this, but when I see you do something, I'm like, fuck, I've got to level up. I've got to do something cool as well. So I think that's a really cool thing about surrounding yourself with good people, surrounding yourself with people that you look up to that want to make you level up, be a better person, and you're definitely doing that, mate. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Good morning.
That was some very kind words there, mate. So
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
I wrote those down.
We need to, if we win the grand final, can we do like a potty in the parade or something?
I think we could. I think we could
or
do
you can't
that.
get on the road.
No, we get on the road. We've got the way to go. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Two-time would sound
I just
very
don't wanna
nice next to the name.
It would. I just don't want to wait like another 2,000 days.
No, we don't. One thing I do want to do in the off season that we will get out. I want to do some content. I want to come out again to the farm. We'll film some stuff. We're going to do some fishing stuff, but I'm not great with the. Yeah. You took me and Reedy out once into the bay, and I was like.
We were in the harbour. And
we were in the harbour, and I was like throwing up.
Waves, yeah.
It was like not even 1 foot waves,
wasn't it? It was pretty rough that day. It wasn't too bad in my eyes, but it was rough enough.
You were fine. I was struggling, but then obviously the golf, as well. We need to have a whack. Man, I've got you on mate. GA 4-3.
Yeah, 3-8 or something. I think. Is it, or is it blown out?
It's 3. Yeah, 3-8.
I've been playing a bit. I've been actually. We haven't really spoke about that, but I try to play once a week. But it depends on what's happening.
Where are you playing?
13th Beach a lot.
Yeah,
but we change it up. So I'm not actually really. I'm a member at Port Arlington. We got over there.
Yeah.
Last week, but I think I'm going to sign up at 13th. So it's just the closest one. There's a couple of courses, and the boys love it. That's the best thing about it. You can play with anyone. We played with a couple of randoms last week, and it was just great to meet new people.
Hey, speaking of this, and I do promote this. Not promote's the wrong word, but I do think this is actually one of the best things that you can do. Is when you play golf, you put your phone away, you get out there, you play with other people, you learn other perspectives, meet new people. You just get out of your own head for 4 hours, sometimes 5, depending on how you're going.
Yeah.
But I think it's genuinely the best thing you can do to get a bit of perspective on just not what's going on. Unless you don't have someone chewing your ear off about the Cats, it's actually quite nice.
That does happen from time to time.
Yeah, I can imagine it does.
Yeah.
Mate, you're a star. Best of luck for the rest of the year, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, mate.
Really.